Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Did you know that Darth Vader once fought Jocasta Nu, the former chief librarian of the Jedi Archives? Whether you did or didn't, I'd recommend sticking around for what I think is a pretty cool story. In my last video, where I discussed Vader meeting the Inquisitorius, I mentioned the beginning of this storyline, so we'll pick up from there. Real quickly too, I'd recommend staying until the end of the video for details on how to win my upcoming Christmas giveaway. Without further delay, let's get into the video. Darth Vader and the Grand Inquisitor are going over a list of their priority targets amongst the Jedi presumed to have survived Order 66. The name Jocasta Nu has extra emphasis on it, much to the Grand Inquisitor's confusion. We know his background was a former Jedi Temple guard, and in his time there, he never saw her fight once. Vader cuts him off, instilling a "don't question the Emperor's orders" attitude within him. We cross to Jocasta Nu as she is finishing recording a message within a holocron. Her assistant Gar asks what she is up to as she tells him that she has just recorded her last words. She can feel her time drawing to a close and is aware that she doesn't share the same lifespan as Master Yoda, who of course lived to be 900 years old. Jocasta has been tirelessly working on imparting her knowledge from decades of maintaining the Jedi archives upon these holocrons, with her latest one containing her thoughts on the purpose of her order. Back on Coruscant, the Grand Inquisitor is telling Vader how he always hated Jocasta Nu. She would rarely let him scan through the archives, and for that rare occasion when she did, she wouldn't let him out of her sight. He felt as though she thought education was reserved for the elite, and not the Jedi warriors who were putting their lives on the line. Vader realigns her sights by assigning the Grand Inquisitor to scour the archives for clues as to the locations of surviving Jedi. Happy he finally has the freedom to search the archives without being restricted, he gets to work immediately. Jocasta Nu walks through a waterfall, revealing the school she has created on the other side. The Jedi Starfighter is in the center of the room, as well as her R-Series droid present. The walls are lined with holocrons and a new set of archives, as well as what appears to be lightsaber training drones and blast shield helmets, much like we saw Sabine wear in Ahsoka. Gar believes the archives to be complete, and now they can set off and do what they want. However, since it is a school, it obviously requires students, as Jocasta pulls out a box, presumably containing her lightsaber, before setting off on an extremely dangerous mission to obtain a key piece to beginning her school. As Jocasta Nu is landing on Coruscant and infiltrating the Jedi archives, Vader is reporting to Palpatine and asking why she is of such importance. Palpatine explains that in his opinion, the Jedi abused the power they held for so long within the Republic. They would lay claim to every site they came across that held importance to the Force, and then took them, along with the artifacts and secrets they held. This was not limited to just matters to do with the Jedi. It also included Sith artifacts and secrets. Jocasta was given all of these to sort and store. As part of this, Palpatine believes she has concealed a treasure within the Jedi Temple archives that holds great importance to the Empire and its future. It is up to Vader to track her down and take her alive. Jocasta emerges from a secret entrance within the Temple archives, shocked at the destruction caused within. Her droid B2, who has stayed with her Jedi Starfighter, contacts her with a warning that a local security team is on their way. As they arrive, B2 sacrifices himself by blowing up the ship and taking out the security team. On her way to retrieve what she needs, Jocasta spots the Grand Inquisitor going through the files and snarls at the sight of a member of the Empire with their hands on what she once cared for. She refocuses herself and maintains her course of seeing out her mission. More local security members, as well as shock troopers and an ISB officer, have met at the site of the explosion as they begin to investigate and piece together what happened. A piece of Jocasta's starfighter with the Jedi symbol catches their attention, as the ISB officer is forced to report it to a new guy with a funny name. I've mentioned it in previous videos, but in this super early stage of the Empire, nobody really knew who Vader was. He sort of just appeared and was seen here and there. A lot of mystery surrounded him, even to those who were working with him. Jocasta reaches a secret door, where she alters certain archives to open it. Once inside, a large room is revealed with more archives, another Jedi Starfighter, as well as artifacts, with one appearing to be a Sith holocron. A droid named Kator greets her, reassuring her that it is safe and he has kept watch. Vader arrives at the investigation scene, where the ISB officer presents their initial findings to him. They believe it was a bomb set off prematurely upon being caught, and the Jedi symbol was merely graffiti of a rebellious nature. Cold as ever, Vader matter-of-factly informs the officer that he is wrong. The ISB officer begins to recite his resume and experience, as Vader uses the Force to reassemble the wreckage, confirming that it was indeed a Jedi starfighter. The urgency of the situation now very clear. Vader gives the officer his orders of where to search, as long as he remains clear of the Jedi Temple, so that Vader has control of the building. Back in the secret room within the archives, Jocasta Nu has located a data chip, which contains the Jedi Order's database of every Force-sensitive child in the galaxy, just prior to Order 66. This is the key to her restarting the Jedi Order within her newly created school. She leaves quickly, retracing her steps and seeing the Grand Inquisitor once again, as he has complete disregard for her precious Jedi archives, tossing them on the ground when he's done reading them. She tries to stay focused, but the sight of them hitting the ground is too much to bear, as she leaps from the walkway down on the table in front of the Grand Inquisitor. She doesn't recognize him, as he recounts his disappointment at being repeatedly denied access to the archives in the past, as she realizes he was a Jedi. He ignites his saber as she is about to strike him down, and a duel ensues. The Grand Inquisitor talks of his feelings of never belonging and feeling out of place, with the thing he was possibly missing being located within these archives. Jocasta Nu returns with her sense of duty, something she still feels even after the Order has fallen, as she explains that she denied many such requests to access the archives, as most were not ready. The Grand Inquisitor is strengthened by his emotions, and begins to get on top of Jocasta Nu. After all, she wasn't known for her combat skills. He disarms her and prepares to make the killing blow, as she begins to recite, "I am one with the Force is with." She hears a clash of sabers as she opens her eyes, still alive, and sees the tall, dark, menacing figure of Darth Vader, preventing the Grand Inquisitor from killing her. He is shocked at what Vader has just done, and they get into a disagreement where he questions Vader's loyalty, which he does not care for. He only needs the Inquisitor's obedience. Jocasta capitalizes on this opportunity, throwing archives at the pair of them, taking her lightsaber back and escaping, momentarily. Vader is angered by the Grand Inquisitor's foolishness, looking at him lying on the ground unconscious as the Dark Lord pursues Jocasta. She uses this brief moment to erase all data from the archives, knowing full well that is what Vader has kept her alive for. Darth Vader has located and entered the secret room Jocasta had that was guarded by her droid Kator.
This is where the fun begins.
Kator has completed a bioscan of Vader and matched the body to Jedi Master Anakin Skywalker. No doubt hearing the name of his former self infuriated him, let alone the word Master being attached to it. As Kator begins to explain that he does not have access, Vader hurls his lightsaber at the droid who catches it. Due to the sensitive area of the temple that Kator had been protecting, his training includes security techniques relating directly to lightsaber attacks. He orders Master Skywalker to leave, as Vader launches his body at the droid, tearing it apart and destroying it. Although this droid only had a brief appearance, its sense of duty and the lengths it would go to was admirable, and I was a fan, particularly because it reminded me of Ned B from the Kenobi series. Hearing the person that occupied the suit was Skywalker, Jocasta Nu instantly knew what she was up against and was going to give her a lot of trouble. She rattles her brain in search of what I thought was an insanely cool weapon and something I'd love to have seen in live action at some point. She pulls out a weapon that she attaches her lightsaber to, and it shoots the energy of the saber, which Vader blocks. However, the force of it still sends him flying. Master Nu begins to understand. Knowing that she is currently fighting Obi-Wan's former Padawan, the things left unsaid in his recorded message make sense. My personal take on this is that she is referring to there being no mention of Anakin, Vader, or Palpatine. However, as we know, Obi-Wan was not aware of these details until after he had recorded his message. She attempts to shoot more bolts of kyber crystal energy, but the weapon is overheated, causing her saber itself to warp and melt. The gun begins to beep, as she throws it at Vader, who attempts to return serve, causing it to remain in the middle of them until it explodes. This causes a massive explosion that can be seen from outside the Jedi Temple by the shock troopers. It leaves a hole in the wall which Jocasta uses to escape, but not before taking another saber with her. Leaping to the ground, the shock troopers begin to engage her as she slices through them. They turn their attention to the silhouette who remains in the temple, and believing it's another Jedi, they begin to fire upon him. This relates to what I said earlier about the majority of the newly formed Empire having little to no knowledge on this Darth Vader person. Commander Fox sees his shock troopers mistakenly firing upon Vader, and urges his troopers to cease fire, as his carrier flies to the temple wall to retrieve Vader. As Vader boards, he asks Fox why he didn't provide his troops with a description of him. Not content with Fox's answer, he breaks his neck. The carrier approaches Jocasta Nu, who is still dealing with the shock troopers, as she is backed up against a very high drop. When things don't seem like they can get much worse, her saber is shot out of her hands, leaving her without a weapon, as the order is given to not shoot her. She must be taken alive. Repeating what she said earlier, as she prepared for death at the hands of the Grand Inquisitor, she says, "I am one with the Force is with me," as she falls backwards to her death. Or so she thought. She's floating in the air as she exclaims, "No!" realizing Darth Vader has prevented her from dying on her own terms. It was very much like Darth Maul's reaction when Ahsoka saved him and took him in at the conclusion of the Siege of Mandalore. The shock troopers search Jocasta, finding nothing but the memory crystal. Vader inserts it into the right box on his belt as the information appears on his lenses. He realizes the importance of this memory crystal as he reads the list of the Force-sensitive children the Jedi had been targeting. He asks Master Nu if she had planned to recruit them herself, as she turns the tables on Vader. She realizes that Vader didn't actually know why Palpatine wanted her to remain alive, as it dawns on them both that he wants to make more people like Vader. She continues to poke and prod him by asking what Vader really wants, trying to make him think rather than doing the Emperor's bidding without knowing the full story. It's very possible that with Vader obtaining a list of future replacements for him, he could have sealed his fate in being discarded later on. The Emperor was always looking for potential replacements, constantly challenging Vader to discover who the strongest possible apprentice he could have was. Even at the very end in Return of the Jedi, he was urging Luke to strike his father down and take his place at his side. The shock troopers on board the carrier ask Vader if he wishes for them to stun her, to stop those Jedi liars. Jocasta Nu can't resist. Seeing the irony in the situation, she tells the troopers that they are taking orders from Anakin Skywalker, a Jedi Knight. Now, as we have seen on multiple occasions, Vader refused to let people know his former identity, generally killing them on sight. This instance was no different, as he throws all shock troopers out of the carrier, leaving just him and Jocasta Nu on board. He asks what will become of her, as we see the red glow of his saber as he ignites it. We don't see the killing strike, but it is pretty safely assumed what happens next, and Vader confirms that shortly after the carrier has crashed and he is reporting to Palpatine. Although he changes the story to make it seem as though her death was a result of her carelessness in trying to escape. The Emperor asks Vader if he was able to retrieve or learn anything from Jocasta, as he looks at the memory crystal and crunches it. We get an incredibly cold shot of Vader, with flames reflecting off of his mask as he replies, "Nothing." The Dark Lord wasn't going to provide a possible replacement for himself to his master on a silver platter. In a conclusion to the school Jocasta Nu has begun to build, we see her assistant Gar appearing to have been waiting for her return for a while, presumably coming to the conclusion that she was not coming back. He sacrifices himself by blowing up the entrance, sealing the knowledge within for when the right person comes along. We see Luke Skywalker pull a stone out, as he appears to have found it many years later. Thank you so much for watching, guys. This is one of my longer videos, however there was a bit to cover as I thought there were so many interesting elements in this story. The return of Commander Fox was cool, but I really loved the rare instances of people discovering the former identity of Vader, no matter how short-lived it may be. On a couple personal notes, number one, the holiday period is fast approaching. I've decided to do a bit of a giveaway as my way of saying thank you for the love and support throughout my first year on YouTube. I'll most likely be running it in early December on my Twitter, so make sure to follow me there to be able to enter. Funko Pops will be a strong theme in this giveaway. They're currently in the mail as I record this audio, but I'll chuck some photos of them up on my socials when they arrive. On a second note, I recently hosted my first live stream on my YouTube channel and man, it was awesome. Really chill vibe, just playing some games and talking all things Star Wars and life. So I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who showed up, and I'll be sure to do another soon. That's all from me in this video, guys, so until next time, may the Force be with you, always.